On to the ACC. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. We break down the game we all love each and every day with you. Best discussion, debate, and analysis. Consider we've got 25 team channels. 11 of those have weekly live streams. Please catch them. And, of course, subscribe right here on the main channel as well at the Voice of College Football. Like that video, even if you don't agree with me, if you enjoy the discussion, debate, and analysis, which we hope is the very best in college football, based on your participation, then please hit the like button. Let's check out the ACC. Keep in mind that we are going through college football TV ratings, putting them into context from the 2022 season, of course, with the situation in the Pac-12 with the conference trying to strike a media rights deal, the Big 12 trying to pilfer from the Pac-12, and all the ramifications across college football. We now come to the ACC, and in the long run, which may be the most vulnerable of the conferences, the grant of rights extends to 2036, but what is the ACC's plan from now until then, and how binding is that contract? Of course, we've dealt with that subject a number of times during live streams and videos. Check out that work. But let's get to the TV ratings for the ACC and how it stacks up thus far. Keep in mind, we're going to produce a Big Ten and SEC video and then wrap it all up and compare all the conferences and their performances. So let's first go through the college football season week to week and see how ACC games, both non-conference and conference, stacked up against the rest of college football. Well, in week one, a pretty impressive showing out of the ACC with the second highest viewed game of the week, also the fourth highest viewed game. But we've got to take something into consideration here. So Florida State LSU at number 2, Clemson Georgia Tech at number 4. Consider on that Labor Day weekend that there is college football on Sunday and Monday that is unchallenged by anything else in college football. We've got the glut of games on Saturday, single games on Sunday and Monday. The ACC has taken advantage of that. They've got no competition, so they were outrated by games that had competition. So keep in mind, great ratings, Clemson, Georgia Tech, and Florida State LSU in particular, but they had no competition on opening weekend, the ACC, with 3 of the top 10 games in the nation. All right, we move on to week 2, and we see Pitt, Tennessee. Nice showing there because that was a 3:30 Eastern time slot, and they had much competition in week 2. So their number 2 rating for the week actually more impressive than Florida State and LSU, and the ACC with 2 of the top 10 games in week 2. We move on to week 3, another strong ACC non-conference showing. This is before Miami and Texas A&M capsized to the bottom of college football at 5-7. They rated with the number 3 game of the week. The ACC also pulled through with 5 of the top 15 games of the week, including 1 conference game and 6 of the top 25. We've got more non-conference games to talk about in week 4. 2 of the top 12 in the nation coming in non-conference. Also, the ACC chips in with the 7th highest rated game and the 11th in-conference game. So add it up, and that's 4 of the top 12 games in college football for week 4. Starting in week 5, we almost have exclusively just conference games, and this is where the ACC proved to be a little bit weaker than it showed early in the season when those teams are playing each other and not resting on big brands that they're playing outside the conference like LSU and Texas A&M and Tennessee. Here we go. They did turn in the 2nd and 6th highest ranked games of the week in week 5. Those are conference games. Good showing for the ACC right there. In week 6, not as strong with numbers 9 and 13. The 3rd rated game in college football for week 7 was an ACC game. You see less games rated than we did for the Big 12 and the Pac-12. ACC Network does not have ratings yet because a particular network does not have to release ratings. Nielsen does not rate them for 5 seasons. The ACC kicked off in the 2019 college football season, so there are no ACC Network ratings, and the ACC Network is used heavily by the conference for football. Week 8, the top-rated game of the week came from the ACC as well as number 11. Good week for the ACC. They step out of conference play in week 9 with the 7th rated game of the week and the number 10 highest viewed game of the week coming from the ACC. So 2 out of the top 10 in week 9. 3 of the top 17, 2 in the top 10 in week 10 as well. We move on to week 11. We see not a good week for the ACC there, as there were 11 other games that ranked higher and were more viewed than the highest ranked game by the ACC in week 11. Week 12, similar showing by the ACC. No appearances in the top 10. Week 13, obviously rivalry weekend. Ohio State, Michigan blew out everyone with 17 million views. But after that, we've got a showing at number 2 from the ACC. Great showing from Florida State. Also, though, exclusive game. It was on a Friday night. They had no competition. So again, 3 of the best game showings from the ACC have to be considered because there was no competition. And then there were 4 total games from the ACC in rivalry weekend that rank in the top 16 in the nation. The most viewed game by the ACC in conference play for the 2022 season was that Georgia Tech-Clemson game. Let's also consider, as we just mentioned, it had no competition on a Monday night, so that's to be considered. Also, that there were 22 other games in college football that ranked higher than the conference matchup between Georgia Tech and Clemson. Let's keep in mind that the ACC had 3 games that ranked higher than any Pac-12 game, being USC and UCLA. The Big 12 had 1 game that ranked higher than all the ACC games. That was Texas and TCU. But of course, here comes the SEC and the Big 10. The SEC had 8 games that had more viewers than the ACC's highest conference game, and the Big 10 had 6 conference games that ranked better than that Clemson-NC State game. As we run through the top 10, we see that Clemson appeared in 6 of the top 10 rated games from the ACC. We've got Florida State coming back to a 10-3 season after horrible showings going back to 2016. So Florida State made a bit of a comeback in the ratings. The Clemson-Florida State game did well as we've got Florida State in Louisville and Florida State in Wake Forest showing up. Keep in mind that number 10 ranked game between Virginia and Syracuse, you wouldn't think, wow, Virginia and Syracuse was the 10th highest rated game. Well, it was on a Friday night on ESPN. Therefore, again, it was basically the only college football involving Power 5 teams on that Friday night. Keep in mind that because of the ACC network situation in not releasing ratings at this point, that we've got the least sample size from the ACC compared to the Big 12, for example. The Big 12, 45 conference games, 39 rated because they were played on Fox, FS1, and ESPN, ESPN2, etc. For the ACC, with 56 conference games, only 19 rated here, so less of a sample size. We have to assume to a certain extent, because of the subscriber base for the ACC network, that those games are not topping 1 million views and not really affecting this graphic that we're showing you right now, which shows us that the ACC had 3 games, conference games, that had over 4 million viewers. 6 over 3 million, 8 over 2 million, and 15 of the 19 rated. And these games are on ABC and ESPN's family of networks in particular, that the ACC out of the 19 rated had 15, which broke the 1 million view mark, which is pretty substantial, pretty strong, stable, nothing close anywhere in the same hemisphere as the Big 10 and the SEC, but certainly in play with the Big 12 and the Pac-12. The ACC championship game involved 2 teams that had no shot of making the playoff. That is a huge factor. In the past, we've had Clemson, who has been a heavy favorite against overmatched opponents in the ACC championship game, and that has impacted things, although Clemson was fighting for a college football playoff appearance. Now, this particular season, of course, Clemson had 2 losses. North Carolina had 3 losses, therefore the winner not making the playoffs. Therefore, the Pac-12 and Big 12 championship games did much better than the ACC. The ACC had the 5th of the Power 5 at 3.47 million views. That is not strong, considering the Big 12 was way over 9 million views, and even the Pac-12 over 5 million. The Big 10 and the SEC eclipsed 10, 11 million views. We are running through all the TV ratings for 2022. We've knocked out the Pac-12 and the Big 12. We've left those links down in the comments section. We want to hear from you. Obviously, we want to put this into context. It's not just about the sheer numbers, i.e. the ACC network impact cannot be shown here, but we've got a pretty good gauge that the ACC network games obviously are not competing with games that are on ABC, Fox, and ESPN in particular, but there is a factor there. But we're looking at the highest rating games in college football, and we're going to put it all together. Next, the SEC and the Big 10, that we've put it all together. We give a complete look of college football and the most popular teams and most popular conferences as the Pac-12 continues to struggle to strike a deal. Right here at the Voice of College Football, please subscribe.